Hey y'all, Sergeant TJ coming at you once again from the DFW right here in the heart of Texas, where at the moment, I must admit it's colder than a well digger's ass outside. But that's perfect because it's great weather for sitting down with a nice book. Or an audiobook, perhaps? Anyway, listen, I wanted to come to you today and talk about the fact that there's only 12 more days until the big 300th anniversary of William's arrival to America. And that's this Saturday, November 11th, 2023. So, in light of that fact, that means that we're in the home stretch right now so far as the release of each of the chapters of Book 1 is concerned. And so I thought it'd be a good time, since we're in the home stretch, to address a couple of the most frequently asked questions I've received. So, and by the way, just for the record, Book 1 is currently available on 6 platforms. So you have, of course, YouTube, and then there's Rumble, and we got BitChute, and Daily Motion, Facebook, and also on True Social. So, just getting the book out there to as many people as I possibly can and hoping that they enjoy it. So anyway, in light of that fact, I've been getting questions from across the board, not to mention from people on the street that know me, who've been following the book and have had questions of me as well. So anyway, so here we go. It says, question number 1. Dear Closet Writer, I'm loving your book. I'm loving that you're loving it. The question is, do you plan on publishing the series? And that comes from Lady Celeste. Well, first of all, Lady Celeste, thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. And to answer your question, I really probably should, before I answer that question, I should probably read the second question, which is often asked of me, but they kind of run hand in hand together. And so I could probably best answer both questions at the same time. The second question is from Fred G., who asks, have you written any other books? And if so, where can I find them? Audiobooks have their place, but I prefer reading to myself. And, it's interesting because I've heard that from a lot of people. And as a matter of fact, if you recall my previous videos, I talked about my daughter being one of my first readers. And she and my son have been instrumental in helping me to get to where I am right now today with this book. So, but she made an interesting comment to me that she said that she loved reading the book, but in all honesty, listening to it was a completely different experience, because the voice in her head that she heard while reading the book was entirely different than that which she hears through my narration. So, and that was kind of a fear of mine, because, we all have our own interpretation of books when we read them. And so, I had some concern about that, but it is what it is. And honestly, I had too much fun recording it to have any regrets. So sorry about that, hon, but it is what it is. To everyone else out there, I hope that I hope you enjoy it and it doesn't deter you from hearing the rest of the book. So anyway, to Fred and Lady Celeste, the answer to the question is kind of multifold, because nobody knows me from Adam. I've never written a book before. So, when they see my book come up, it's not like, oh, Clancy, I'm going to check that one out, which, by the way, you really got to check out Rainbow Six. And I mean, like right now, because that book is so parallel with what we are experiencing right now in the world today. And I find it very insightful. I mean, I hear a lot of people talking about 1984, which, um, perfect example, the movie was nothing like the book. I had to turn the movie off after like a few minutes. It was awful. But the book, again, reading it in my own head, um, was an interesting experience to say the least. And yes, I can see with the way things are going in the world today, there are a lot of parallels. A lot of parallels. Scary how many parallels there are, in fact. So if you've never read 1984, I highly recommend you do so. But if you want a more positive uh, read, then I would definitely recommend Rainbow Six. Fantastic book. And again, just the parallels that are going on in the world with what's going on in the world today are quite remarkable. Clancy had some incredible insights. Um, Whereas I just write storybooks, or whatever. They're not really at the level of Clancy. Man, I wish I could. Brilliant writer. Anyway, but I digress. I've kind of gotten off topic here. So the question again is, do I plan on publishing the series? And the other question was, have I written any other books? And if so, where can I find them? So first of all, yes, I have written other books. I've written 4 books, in fact. And this is, of course, just the first of those 4. And as soon as book 1 finishes posting, I'll begin the process of recording the narration for book 2, so I get that out there as soon as possible. But I will warn you, seeing as how I've never done this before, any of this. I mean, I've never been a YouTuber. I've never been a writer. I've certainly never been a narrator. So all of this is very, very new to me. And as such, the first book, the recording of the first book actually took me about a year to do because I'm doing all my own editing and everything. So, but hopefully the second book will go a little quicker. I'm hoping, in fact, to have it released by my birthday, which is in May. So hopefully by May of next year, book 2 will begin posting. In the meantime, hopefully more people will listen to book 1. But whether there are or aren't, there will still be a book 2 and then a book 3 and then a book 4. So to answer that question, yes, there are other books. Now, uh, and do I plan on publishing the series? So again, as I said, being a first-time writer, I don't have a following, and so it really didn't make any sense to me to go out and try to get published and get the hardcover and the soft cover and the ebook, which would all be great. But I mean, how many people are really going to spend money on a product that they know nothing about? So, in my opinion, that was a waste of time. And it really was contrary to the reason I wrote the books in the first place. I did not write these books to make money. I wrote the books to tell a story. And I kind of touched on that in my author's notes in book 1. It was really so overwhelming, the amount of information that I came across, that I would have been remiss to not at least attempt to write a book about it. As poor or great a book as it may or may not be, it was never about that. It was just about telling a story, and it was certainly not about making any money. So, um, while I would love to publish the books at this point, I really don't have any plans to. I will. There's one caveat. I will say this: if at some point I have at least 3,000 subscribers, um, and if the analytics tell me that people are reading the books, then at that point, yes, I probably will pursue publishing and get a hard copy, a softback, and an ebook copy out there for folks to enjoy. But until then, it just doesn't seem like it's a prudent thing to do. It's just a waste of time. I mean, if people learn about the book and they listen to the book and they enjoy the book, then great. But at this point, there's no point in trying to do all those other things. So y'all are enjoying the only version that's available. So, well, I hope you're enjoying it anyway. So, anyway, so I hope that answers your question. So it's kind of a yes and no. I would like to, but at this point, until there's enough people showing interest in the book, I see no point in publishing it. And so she says, and where can you find them? Well, at this point, you can find them on the 6 platforms I mentioned earlier. So thank you for the question, Fred and Lady Celeste. Much appreciated. So that's your top two questions that I get pretty frequently. Yeah, for the third question is from History Buff 79 and reads, Sergeant T, did your grandfather really come to America 300 years ago? And the answer to that, History Buff 79, is absolutely. Now, I will say this. I spent a lot of time researching for this book. And one thing that I learned from the experience is that there is either not a lot of information or a ton of information available, depending on what particular topic you're researching at any given moment. And in the case of this book, I came across a lot of conflicting information, and a lot of it. And so, and that doesn't just apply to only the anniversary of William's arrival, but it really applies to a lot of this information that I came across and a lot of the things that you'll find in the book. And so I felt my job was really to kind of whittle it down, if you will, to what I believe to be the most accurate information of all of the information that I was able to garner, and then present it in the book as I did. So, yes, to the best of my knowledge, contrary to some conflicting information that it does exist out there, to the best of my knowledge, William did arrive 300 years ago this November 11th. So, and that's why we're releasing the book right now the way we are, in celebration and in honor of that 300th anniversary. So here's to you, Granddad. I hope you're proud. I hope you enjoy the book wherever you are. So anyway, so yes, History Buff 79. The answer is yes, I did. My grandfather did arrive 300 years ago, November 11th, 1723. So pretty cool. And on we go. So, fourth question from Michael Hammer. Cool book, man, but I'm curious. You said researching your family history led you to write this book. Of all of your ancestors, why did you choose William? Okay, fair question, Mike. I'm sorry, Michael. Fair question indeed. And, really, when I first started researching, I mean, I found information going way back. I mean, unbelievable how much data is out there. And you're right. I could have chosen from any one of 100 different ancestors that were certainly worthy of writing about. I mean, I could have written about King Edward de Bruce, my great grandfather, who was the King of Ireland. Or I could have written a book about his brother, Robert de Bruce, the King of Scotland. But I just felt like there was already enough out there in the world written about those individuals, because they're so in the limelight, if you will, being royalty in Scotland and Ireland. And so in the end, it really came down to one very simple thing. The reason I started researching in the first place was because I wanted to find out how my family arrived in America and from where. And so when it comes right down to it, that made it a very, very simple decision. It just seemed to me like my grandfather, William Bruce, was the perfect character to focus on to write a book about because he was the man who brought our family from Ireland to this great country of ours. And so, you know, in many ways, that makes him my family's first American father, which, by the way, is the title of book two. So, uh, throw a little info out there for you. Anyway, so yeah, I chose William because he was the first to come to America. But I also really wanted, I was fascinated by James Sr. and and really his sons and their life in Ireland. And so I was really, really tempted to write a book about that. But again, I just felt like uh, it was a better story or more appropriate, at least from where I was sitting, to write about the man who brought my family to these shores. So that's why I chose William Bruce. And thank you, Michael, for your support, and thank you for posting the question. I appreciate it. And fifth and final top question of the day, Sergeant TJ. Your characters crack me up, and I love the voices you use to tell the story. Just curious, are the characters real people or just William? And that comes from Allison Johnson. Well, Allison, to answer your question, yes and no. Uh, while researching the book, I came across many, many characters, real people, and some of whom crossed paths with William and others who did not, but were in the vicinity of William. And since I wasn't there, I don't know if they met or not, but I chose to connect them together in this story. And then the people, the other characters, um, are individuals who I needed to paint the picture, if you will, because certainly William didn't walk around in Virginia all by his lonesome. There were people around, and so of course I then created new characters. But I will tell you this: most of the characters that are in the book are named after people that I personally have known or still know. And many of those are veterans of the U.S. military. So that was kind of my way of saluting them for their service by including them as characters in my book. And so maybe I'll do another segment at another time and talk about who those characters are and in the book and who they are in real life and why I chose to honor them in that way. But for now, to answer your question, yes, William is a real person, and many of the characters are real. And you'll certainly learn that and see more of that in book two and book three, in particular, when we start getting more into, uh, let's just say, other areas of history, if you will, that my grandfather and his sons were, in fact, very much a part of, to include the French and Indian War and George Washington, both when he was a colonel in the Virginia Regiment, and during the Revolution, when, of course, George Washington was the general of the army, and there were some very, very close connections with him on during both of those historical events. Which again, I don't want to give away the story, but yeah, so you'll learn in books 2 and 3 my family's connection with those events and with General Washington and others. And I hope that you folks will stick around to hear those books because to me, book 1 was just kind of an introduction to the character and to kind of set the stage for book 1 really sets the stage for books 2, 3, and 4. So anyway, um, I hope that answers your question, Allison. And again, thank you for your support, and I appreciate the question. And I hope that all 5 of you folks and others who have posted questions, I hope that helps to answer those questions. And to all of you, I really appreciate your continued support. And I would love to hear more feedback and read more of your comments, whatever platform you may be listening to the book on. So until next time, I thank you for your continued support. And oh, one last thing before I go. Just a reminder, tonight, chapter 20 drops at 8 p.m. Central. So don't you miss that one. It's going to be a good one. But until then, y'all, this is Sergeant TJ, and I'm signing out. We'll see you next time.